everyone, and welcome to this year's annual College Democrats versus College, no, not that, this year's annual Town Hall by the Student Government Association. My name is Paige Hallstetter, and I am the current chairperson of the Civic Engagement Committee within Student Government. The Student Government Association is the official governing body of students and works to represent and serve the students here in Illinois. This annual event is a great way to bring these two organizations together and bring more political awareness to campus. So thank you for being here tonight. To begin the night off, I would like to introduce all of our 4 political organizations. On the right here, we have YUSA, and then we have College Democrats, College Republicans, and Critical USA. Thank you to everyone who joined us tonight, and thank you to the 4 political organizations for being here. And down here, we have our 2 moderators, Ashley McCooney and Patrick Walsh. And our timekeeper here is Zoe Smith. This town hall is meant to be informative and educational. Please refrain from applause or any other remarks until every speaker is done speaking, until the topic has come to a close. Thank you all again for being here tonight. And without further ado, let's begin.
All right, our first topic is gun control. Our first question goes to Katie Hammond from the Democratic Socialists of America. So was that? Gun control? And, I have down here Katie Hammond. All right. All right up. And the question is, does your party believe that the increase of firearm restrictions infringes on citizens' Second Amendment rights?
While the Democrats generally argue in favor of gun control, and members, we in YNC have members of both sides of this divide, when you think about guns as a matter of public health, it's hard to see why anyone left-leaning would be in favor of it, in favor of guns generally. Considering that outside of how cool they are, you don't really have any reason to have them. That being said, firearms restrictions in terms of Second Amendment rights, they, the YSA says that we, in the interest of public safety, that when there are more people around, we need more restrictions. As more people need to protect themselves, there will be less restrictions involved. And when you see trans communities and minority places, minority communities under attack, sometimes you need to think.
All right, our next question will go to Lauren Bounds from College Democrats. Does your party believe an increase of gun laws would infringe upon the right to self-defense and deny people a sense of safety?
Absolutely not. We believe that gun control laws are really needed right now. When you look at the statistics, there have been 106 mass shootings in the past 68 days. That is more than 1 mass shooting a day. We have had multiple times when we have had the opportunity to choose people or children over guns, and we have always chosen guns. What we need to do is we need to implement gun control laws. We have multiple different options. We can choose gun registration and background checks. In fact, there was just an executive order by President Biden for more background checks. What the gun registration does is what the car registration does. You have to learn how to drive. You have to learn everything else that is involved with it. You get a license, and then you are allowed to drive your car. It is no different with gun registration. And the background checks, that allows us to know who the good guys with guns would be. Without any of these safety measures in place, we have no possible way of knowing.
Next question goes to Chloe Blair from the College Republicans. Does your party believe stricter gun regulations would reduce gun violence?
We do not believe that stricter gun regulations are going to help. And gun violence is a serious issue, but gun control is really just a band-aid on the problem. Let's talk about, some of the things and statistics that we mentioned earlier. The real crisis here is a mental health crisis. Almost 60% of all gun deaths in this country are not from mass shootings, they're not from homicides, they're from suicides. Mass shootings aren't even 1% of all the gun deaths in the country, according to the FBI. Now, anyone dying, whether it's in a mass shooting, whether it's through suicide, it is unacceptable. So what can we do? Governor Pritzker thinks we should do an assault weapons ban, but we already tried that in the 1990s, thanks to Joe Biden, with the crime bill. We had an assault weapons ban for a decade, and all the studies I could find said that about, let's just see, 0.1% of gun deaths were reduced, 0.1% in 10 years. That was not effective. If you want to help people survive these incidents, you need to stop them from happening by investing in mental health resources. Taking away guns from people or making it harder to get them, it hasn't worked, and it hurts ordinary people. Gun rights are human rights, and they are women's rights as well. There's a saying that God made all men equal. God made all men, but Sam Colt made them equal, obviously with gun use. People who are bigger or stronger can sometimes be stopped when they have bad things.
Our next question is from Turning Point USA, Christina Joy. Does your party believe our current gun laws and regulations contribute to the high number of mass shootings in America?
Well, to answer your question, I have no doubt that gun control works. And why don't we just ask the experts, Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin, Mao Zedong, the list goes on. The staple of socialist, fascist, and communist regimes is gun control. They confiscate and violate our God-given right to protect ourselves. It is well understood that this armed population is an easily controlled population, and that's if they get all the guns on the street, illegal and legal weapons. The right loves to tell everyone that banning guns will stop mass shootings. And however, according to the Bureau of Justice Statistics in 2016, of those that were arrested while possessing firearms, thank you. Bye-bye.
Moving on to topic 2, universal health care. Our first question will go to Nicholas Colin, or Katie Hammond, from Young Democratic Socialists of America.
Hello. So,
I can read the question.
okay, go ahead.
With the state of our national debt, does your party believe that universal health care is feasible for our country at this time?
So, to answer your question, it is widely accepted belief that healthcare is a human right, and we would like to achieve that initially through a single payer Medicare for all system. That's achieved through comprehensive benefits, tax financing, and a replacement of all private health insurance, as well as the current Medicare program. So, about the cost, a 2020 study at Yale University showed that Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All program would save $450 billion and 68,000 lives. In the U.S., we pay double in healthcare than any other high-income country. One plan is increasing the marginal tax rate for those who make above $250,000 and lower the tax rate for the lower income. That tops out at 52% for incomes above $10 million. So, in the end, our end goal for the American healthcare system is free healthcare, fully funded by the government, and funded access, so there will never be a barrier to someone's health ever again.
Our next question goes to Maddie Sapp from the College Democrats. President Joe Biden campaigned on a public option plan for healthcare and has taken no formal steps since taking office to get such a plan enacted. Do you support that plan and urge Democrats to fulfill that campaign promise?
Yes, we do support a public option for healthcare. Everyone has a right to healthcare. We agree with what I need to say on this point. People shouldn't have to go rogue in order to receive life-saving care. Taxpayer money already pays for research that creates our medical goods and services that are accessible to us. The National Institutes of Health estimates $3.4 billion will be spent on medical research in 2023. So why do we have to pay so much for their findings on the other end? On top of that, prescription drug prices are too high. Prescription drug spending increased to $378 billion in 2021, and most of that falls on the regular citizen. Research experts put the global pharmaceutical market at $1.48 trillion in 2022. In 2021, the U.S. accounted for 40% of that market share. The country closest behind had only 12% of the market. And the reason the U.S. accounts for so much of the market is due to price gouging on medicines. Take insulin, for example. A vial can cost over $300, while the manufacturer price can be as low as $6. Enough complications come with diagnoses. Price of life-saving care should not be considered for anyone. Thank you.
The next question will go to the representative from College Republicans.
I'm back again.
Does your party believe employers should be required by law to offer health insurance to their employees?
Well, it depends on exactly what you mean by that. A lot of companies already are offering health insurance packages and other benefits as well, 401ks, other sorts of things like that. Should all employers be required to do that? No, because I know several local restaurants in my hometown that if they had to do that, they would no longer exist. Smaller businesses should not have the same sort of burdens put on them as large corporations. Now, should Microsoft give their employees good healthcare package? Yes, they should. But they don't need the government to do that, because when companies offer those things, they become more competitive in the job market. If I'm a software engineer, I'm not going to go to Microsoft when I can go to a different company in the in the tech field and have better benefits in healthcare and vacation time and things like that. By giving their own incentives, they automatically gain market share because they're getting better employees and they're more competitive in that job market. Now, we talk about things like universal healthcare, and healthcare is a right. But some of the plans that we have, they are just not feasible. This is one that, well, I like where it's going. It misses the point in that the free market already does it for us.
The next question goes to Matt Setman from Attorney Code USA. Does your party believe that the government has a moral obligation to provide health care to everyone as needed, or is health care a privilege to those who can attain it?
My use of medicine doesn't have anything to do with your use, right? It is an individual concern. The fact that government gets involved with mandating health care for all individuals is tyrannical, to say the least. The government should have no involvement in forcing individuals to require or be obligated to have health care. Right? In healthcare, there's three characteristics: universality, affordability, and quality, right? Ideally for myself, a market-based healthcare system is ideal, right? People should bear the responsibilities of their own actions, and having affordability and quality is the best way to do it, not universality. If I don't want healthcare, that's fine. I can opt out of it and not pay that expense. But you might complain down the line, but at least the government isn't forcing anything down your throat.
Our next topic is transgender rights. Danny Kimball from Democratic Socialists of America. U.S. swimmer Leah Thomas previously competed for her university's men's team before starting her transition in 2019, faced an intense backlash in March after she broke several women's collegiate swimming records. Does your party believe transgender women competing in athletics gives them an unfair advantage against the cis women opponents?
Well, first of all, like ESA stands unequivocally in support of the trans community's right to exist and thrive in their recent uptick in my DSA believes that sports questions should be left up to sports organizations and not the government. State Republican governments across the country have felt the need to intervene in these things and ban. Yeah. Thank you. On sport.
Our next question will go to College Democrats, Representative Maddie Sack. Transgender and non-binary people have the option to begin puberty-blocking medications starting from the earliest stages of puberty. These medications suppress the body's release of sex hormones, including testosterone and estrogen, and any patient under the age of 18 has to get consent from their guardian to begin treatment. Does your party believe that children have the right to choose whether or not to take puberty-blocking medication without parental consent?
When we talk about these different medications, this isn't something that's taken on a whim or for fun. Healthcare is provided with a diagnosis of persistent, well-documented gender dysphoria by a qualified mental health professional. And typically, doctors also work closely with the child's parents. I think if we think that trans children, trans people are allowed to exist and should be protected and allowed to have the Medicare and the healthcare, that they need to live. A research by the American Academy of Pediatrics, published in 2022, shows a 60% decrease in depression and 73% decrease in suicidality among a group of adolescents receiving gender-affirming care. Support should be provided for transgender youth. Providing them with the adequate therapy and healthcare they need will literally save their lives. Transgender children will die without it. Thank you.
Our next question goes to Laura Monk from the College Republicans. Does your party feel it is the government's responsibility to require non-binary and transgender students to use restrooms that are designated to their sex when they're born?
Well, I'd first like to make it clear that, College Republicans, we hold no form of animosity, no form of hatred. We believe that everybody's entitled to self-identify as they so choose and is entitled to the same types of respect depending on the way they view the world. In terms of the restrooms, this one's a tricky one because on one hand, this is a system we have seen being taken advantage of in the past, and that's what you have to find to prevent. If you're able to enforce a system where it is not able to be taken advantage of, you don't have a situation where 40-year-old men are able to go into the women's bathroom and with a bunch of little girls, and it's they'll just say they identify as a woman and are allowed to go in. If people are using this system honestly and truthfully, then we see no problem with trans people using whatever bathroom they choose to identify as. Thank you.
Our next question goes to Turning Point USA Representative Kevin Ferris.
Hi, everybody.
So far this year, 30 transgender and gender non-conforming people have been killed. The vast majority of those being Black and Latinx transgender women. What is your plan to protect the transgender community, specifically Black and brown trans women, from historically high levels of violence?
Look, any level of violence against anybody on inherent characteristics of their identity is absolutely condoned. The thing that we are not talking about when it comes to the transgender community is the fact that a huge issue that we have is the fact that our care for people that have mental illnesses such as gender dysphoria and psychosis is affirming. What we need to be doing is ensuring that we talk to people about why they believe they are a woman when they are in fact a biological man. When it comes to ensuring that everybody is safe in the community, what we need to be doing is ensuring our policing is helpful to all. We need to be making sure that our police are well funded and supported by our communities, and their training to deal with every group of people is up to date. We have oftentimes cops are leaving the profession at high rates, and we need to make sure that our police are being supported and given competent salaries and training in their duties to the community.
Our next topic is regarding higher education funding. Our first question goes to Katie Hammond from the Young Democratic Socialists of America. Nicholas. Democratic Socialists like Bernie Sanders and AOC have proposed free public college and university throughout the U.S. How would a plan like this be funded?
We at YSA are for making all public colleges and universities free, of course, but with student, in order to fund free college education alongside funding trade schools, which is usually like Adam's debate, unfortunately, for those who wish to enter them, we must impose a Wall Street speculation tax similar to that proposed by the Sanders campaign in 2020, in which we would place a 0.5% tax on stock trades, a 0.1% tax on bond trades, and a 0.05% fee on urban trades, which would raise over $2 trillion in revenue over the next 10 years, which is more than enough to fund said programs. At this moment in time, over 40 countries throughout the world have imposed similar taxes, including Germany, France, Brazil, the UK, and China. Also, if banks such as Silicon Valley Bank recently and the other banks in 2008 can be bailed out for several $1 trillion, why can't we bail out 45 million Americans who hold less than $2 trillion in student loans? Thank you.
Our next question goes to Zach Roy from College Democrats. President Joe Biden originally proposed in his Build Back Better legislation that community colleges across the country would be free. Should Democrats pursue this once more, and if they do, should four-year colleges be included?
So the average cost of a bachelor's degree in America over 4 years is $100,000. This is simply too expensive and increasingly more and more essential to get a four-year degree just to be good. Right now, we need to act to make sure a new generation has access to education without breaking the bank. The solution: free community college immediately, right now. Already 31 states have some form of subsidized community college. We need to make sure we get all 50, all free. Community college significantly cuts down on the cost of four-year education, allowing students to knock out those first two years and then transfer to a four-year institution. It's cheap to help fights our trade deficit by making sure people who want to get into trades have access to for completely free. We are America. Our goal should not be just to reach the finish line set by other countries. Instead, we should look to create our own finish line, and that starts making education private.
Our next question will go to College Republicans Representative Ross Manson. The price of college has been artificially inflated, well above the rate of inflation, for nearly half a century. What is the Republican plan to make higher education available to all Americans?
College affordability is an absolute cluster bubble of an issue that encompasses so many layers of government and our own personal lives. So I'd like to focus on a couple of day-one solutions that we can implement tomorrow. First off, we need to be encouraging students towards alternative routes for education. Not every student is equipped for a four-year university program, but they might be ready to take on trade schools or community college, both viable routes for successful careers. Secondly, students might need to be fully educated on their college decision by high school counselors. If a student makes a massive decision to enroll in a four-year university, they need to be certain that they will graduate with a degree in a field that will allow them to find jobs and pay back their student loans. We should encourage fields of study that have promising outlooks for the future and apply to the demands of our current job market.
Next question goes to Kevin Ferris from Transworld USA. As the U.S. experiences the highest ever documented wealth inequality, what is your party's stance on the expansion of public college and university education, such as free college?
Look, it's no lie that public college has become an absolute scam nowadays. When my parents went to ISU 40 years ago, it was $4,000 a year. Now it averages $20,000 a year for people, and about double the amount of people are going to college today. That means your degree is worth less but costing you more. Now, when we talk about the idea of expanding public college and making college free, it's idiotic. The problem that we have right now, the reason why college is becoming so inflated is because we have people that weren't meant to go to college going to college in the first place. And now what we also have is a decrease in the amount of people in the trade industry. You know, there's people that are 2 years, that are about the same age as me right now, 22, 23 years old, and they're making six figures, and they have been for the last 2 years. It's insane that we're trying to talk to people about going to college for free, but not everybody is meant to go to college. And we have a lot of jobs that don't require a college degree that we need people to do. And if anything, the people that are going to become a plumber right now are a lot more noble than myself.
Our next topic is sex education in schools. Our first question goes to Danny Kimball from the Young Socialists of America. Some voters feel that the talk of sex education promotes sexual behavior in adolescents. Does your party believe sex education in schools promotes sexual behavior in young children?
Okay, I don't know if you guys are aware, but adolescents like to have sex. And I think they're going to do it regardless. That's why it's important to give them the knowledge necessary to navigate this facet of life. Comprehensive and inclusive sex ed has been shown to positively impact all aspects of society, from lowering teen pregnancy rates, to lowering the spread of STIs, and giving people lifelong skills required to build healthy relationships. YDSA believes that we owe young people an open, inclusive, medically accurate approach to sex education, and not one with and shit. Thank you.
Our second question goes to College Democrats Representative Laura Maps. Currently in public and private schools, the curriculum that is taught in sex ed classes, is up to the discretion of the school. Should parents be allowed a say in what their child can or cannot learn in these sex education courses?
Yeah, so school is an important part for everyone, and this is why we have school boards. This is where parents take their issues, and this is where parents get to have their opinions as well. As they go to the school board, they elect people who they feel represents their opinions, but schools also do have a debt that they owe to students, and they owe their students an education on sex and sexuality. You can't always rely on parents in the home to provide an explanation of sex, and you need to have that sort of sex education in school like you get education for everything else. What the real problem is here is an ineffective education curriculum that we have right now, which is based on abstinence. What you need to implement is a comprehensive sex education course that is a curriculum based on social, physical, cognitive, and emotional aspects of sex. Right now, what we have, it doesn't stop STDs, and it doesn't stop sexual initiation. We need to set up our youth for a better future and the help that we owe them.
Our next question goes to Ross Mansell for the College Democrats. Sorry, College Republicans. Should sex education be an overview of all sexual practices, or should it limit some topics such as contraception, abortion, and homosexuality?
We believe that sex education needs to be approached incrementally. As students go through middle school and begin undergoing puberty, sex education should be taught to them. When they reach high school, sex education should be taught more in depth, because we all know that high school students will be engaging in these activities, and the least we can do is promote safe sex and protect the students. In high school, they should learn about these topics. Schools should be safe areas to help students learn about difficult and uncomfortable topics. However, we have very clearly crossed the line. Children in some schools are taught at an increasingly young age about obscene topics such as sex, porn, and even how to engage in these activities in explicit pictures and words. One elementary school student from Maine was encouraged to read a book in the library titled Nick and Charlie, which begins with two early teen boys stealing wine from their parents and proceeding to experiment sexually with one another. Dropping second graders into pornographic material is not education, it's degeneracy.
Our next question goes to Turning Point USA Representative Christina Jordan. Two scientific review papers from the Journal of Adolescent Health found abstinence only until marriage programs and policies in the United States are ineffective because they do not delay sexual initiation or reduce sexual risk behaviors. Does your party support these abstinence programs even if proven ineffective?
Basically, yes. I also want to say that age-appropriate, common sense sex education is good for society. The problem is that modern woke policy neglects the word age-appropriate. K through 5th grade children should be learning the basics of consent, boundary setting, and no-touch zones. With that being said, in October of 2022, Springfield District 186 had librarians post a TikTok that they were promoting the book Gender Queer, a memoir. This graphic novel includes sexually explicit images and also pushes a complex and controversial view of gender that is not appropriate for children. An 8th grade teacher in Hayward, Illinois, found promoting a book that depicted intense sexual activity. This type of behavior is absurd. We need age-appropriate, common sense sexual education. What we currently have is perverted policy that hypersexualizes children.
Our final topic is regarding the 15% corporate minimum tax. First question going to Katie Hammond from the Young Democratic Socialists of America. The question is, Democratic Socialists in Congress have commended President Biden for his proposed corporate minimum tax, but have said this is not enough. Do you support the 15% corporate minimum tax? And if not, what other taxation policies should Democrats pursue?
So yes, we support a 15% corporate minimum tax rate, but there is still so much work to be done. The rush deal in Senate to impose this tax rate on companies' book income forced progressives to give up on the more ambitious and ideal rate of 28%. With the 15% rate, corporations barely flinched. By making them pay their fair share, that money can be used to fund things like the Green New Deal, infrastructure, and education. The status quo allows multinational corporations to achieve extremely low worldwide domestic effective tax rate, encourages shifting of profits and investments overseas, and costs billions of dollars each year in U.S. tax revenues. We cannot afford to extend tax breaks for corporations or the wealthy that cripple our ability to invest in social programs. Tax reform must be done in a way that raises significant revenue, protects working families and the vulnerable, and requires corporations and the wealthy to pay their fair share. Thank you.
The next question goes to Zach Roy from the College Democrats. Wealth inequality has reached historic highs in the United States. How do Democrats defend this policy, which progressive and socialists claim is too moderate?
Yeah. So I think it's really important to take a look back to the Reagan administration, where the corporate tax rate was up to 28% for all corporations. Even under Trump, the corporate tax rate was set at 21%. This law set in place by President Biden is not a significant tax increase. Instead, what it's doing is making sure companies pay their fair share and do not cheat the system. Before this, over 170 companies in the S&P 500 paid under 50% tax. And what we need to do is increase the tax rate even further. Companies should be paying their fair share, and that's why President Biden has advocated to take the tax rate up to 28% as a minimum. We need to make sure companies are not skirting our tax laws, cheating the system, and leaving the regular people out to dry. Most importantly, small businesses right now pay 19% in taxes. Why do our corporations need to pay less taxes than our small businesses? We need to make sure our tax law is fair and equal for all people.
Our next question goes to College Republicans Representative Edward Monk. The UAE, one of the wealthiest countries in the world, has a corporate minimum tax of up to 55%. Republicans in Congress oppose the proposed 15% minimum, which is much lower than other nations. Why should corporations be allowed to pay as little as $0 in federal taxes, such as Amazon has in recent years?
Well, so this question really comes down, and our approach basically comes down to the economic realities of high taxation. Frankly, we can see either side of this argument. I would hope that lowering taxes on corporations would have a downstream effect like increasing wages, lowering costs for consumers, and boosting innovation. But I also can understand how allowing more corporations to keep more of their money only kind of ends up funneling more money to the top 1%, something I can't get on board with. But if we were to increase corporate taxes and have high corporate tax rates, we're entrusting the government with more of our hard-earned money, something I also cannot get on board with. However, ultimately what is true about high taxation and high corporate taxes is it only serves more of the global market to countries that have lower corporate tax rates, meaning if America wants to remain competitive on a global scale, we must keep our corporate tax rate low. Thank you.
Our final question goes to Matt Second from Turning Point USA. For decades, a number of the largest and most profitable corporations have paid little or no corporate income tax, fueling a rising inequality and eroding resources necessary to the public investments that promote a healthy economy. Does your party support this corporate minimum tax with some benefits being a healthier economy?
Our party does not support the corporate alternative minimum tax because from 1993 to 2017, corporations in the U.S. were taxed at a rate of 35%. Currently, corporations pay the federal corporate income flat tax rate of 21%. Based on the $1 billion in book income requirement, book income referring to accounting terms, roughly the top 150 companies in the U.S. economy are all likely to face the new 15% corporate alternative tax. The Joint Committee on Taxation created CAMT with the passing of the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022. The estimated total of $222 billion over 10 years is fractional to the required federal budget revenues and avoids problem solving. The Congressional Budget Office forecasts a federal deficit of $1.4 trillion in 23, and the shortfall grows to $2.7 trillion in 33. The solution is to cut government spending.
And that now concludes our annual town hall. Let's give one more round of applause for our great debate. We thank you all for coming out tonight. We hope you get home safely. Have a good night.